This is Usain Bolt, the fastest man ever, and this is your average athlete who runs 11.4 seconds in the 100 meter. What's the glaring difference between these two athletes that makes Usain Bolt look like sprinting is easy, but make this guy look like sprinting faster is impossible? Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you what this slower athlete is doing that is wrecking his speed, how to sprint correctly with less effort, and the exercises you need to make sure this never happens to you again. And by the end of this video, you will get my simple system that's helped this athlete go from 11.2 to 10.3 seconds in the 100 meter in only 8 months of training. In the year 2022, I had this one athlete that was stuck at 11.4 seconds in 100 meter for 2 years straight. And this is a pretty common issue until you realize that he only had 1 year left to break sub 11 if he wanted any shot to compete at the collegiate level. And let me tell you, his training looked perfect, at least on paper. He tried every training program under the sun. He was getting stronger in the gym, but none of this was transferring to faster sprint times. And he used to say every time he sprinted, it felt like his body was fighting against him. So no matter how much harder he tried to sprint faster, he simply could not get his body to move. That's when he came to me, pretty much looking to quit, ready for his final way out. So I had him send me over some of his videos of him running, and the moment I saw the videos, I knew exactly what was going wrong. His old coach used to tell him to take longer strides, which he thought would help. But what it actually did was make his foot land way out in front of his center of mass, aka his hips, which forced him to promote braking forces. In driving terms, imagine you're hitting the brakes on the highway when you're supposed to be hitting the gas so you can hit 80 miles per hour. Now, the easy fix that could work for some athletes is these two simple cues. The first cue is to drive your foot down and back under your hips or under your center of mass. The second tip is pretend there's a nail in the ground right under your body and your foot is the hammer. Use your foot to hammer the nail down every step you take. But for this athlete, I knew that wasn't enough and it might not be enough for you. There was something deeper holding him back, and it wasn't just some simple cues that could fix it. He needed to completely rewire the way his body was functioning. And without fixing this one simple issue, you might keep training for years and see no real progress. Overstriding is often a symptom of deeper issues. One key strength problem needs to be fixed first, or you'll never be able to make sprinting easier or faster for yourself. This research paper shows the importance of hip position while sprinting. It'll also show you the optimal position you want your hips to be during each phase of sprinting. There are 3 main pelvic positions you see in athletes. Number 1, an anterior pelvic tilt. This puts more strain on your hamstrings, increasing risk of injury, but has worked for sprinters like Christian Coleman. He has an insane start, but usually falls off in the later half of the race due to his natural pelvis position. It sits naturally in the anterior pelvic tilt, which makes him worse in the later half of sprinting. Number 2 is a posterior pelvic tilt. This can lead to a weaker start, though some athletes with tall posture during running can still achieve great top-end speed. Think of someone who runs very tall, looks very pretty while sprinting, but just simply isn't moving fast. Number 3 is a neutral pelvic tilt, seen in most of the best sprinters in the world like Usain Bolt and Noah Lyles. This position will allow for maximum speed and efficiency while sprinting. I always teach all of my athletes in the Speed Academy the neutral pelvis position. This will allow you to make sprinting easier and help you run faster. And specifically for the athlete we talked about earlier, this was a crucial fix that helped him run that 10.5. For the exercise to learn the neutral pelvis position, we're going to be doing the isometric positional sprint hold. Number 1, get into a lunge position with a neutral pelvis. Number 2, hold that position with a tall spine. Number 3, focus on keeping the pelvis neutral and squeezing the opposite glute that's down. Number 4, progress to a 90-degree isometric lunge for 2 to 3 minutes. Maintaining the same neutral pelvis position throughout the entire time. You're going to want to lean forward and let your pelvis break. This is going to challenge you to hold it while fatigued. For this exercise, I usually program in the Speed Academy either early in the workout as a warm-up or late in the workout as a finisher. For sets and reps, I do 1 to 2 sets of burnout, which usually lasts around 1 to 3 minutes of total hold time on each leg. Then repeat that for the other leg with the goal of 3 minutes total time per leg. Now that you fixed overstriding and corrected your pelvis position, the next issue you're going to fall into is your hips are going to keep dropping and breaking down every time your foot contacts the ground. And if this happens, it's going to look like you're still overstriding even if you fix the last 2 issues. So let's get into the fix. Research shows the importance of isometric stiffness in every step of sprinting. Sprinting isn't only about eccentric to concentric movements as much as it is about maintaining isometric contractions during the ground contact. So some coaches might look at sprinting more of a multitude of multiple isometric contractions versus the constant turn on, turn off, eccentric to concentric motion that you've been taught by 90% of coaches. I'm not trying to say which one is better or which one's correct, but there is some merit to getting isometrically strong when you're trying to sprint faster. Fixing this issue transformed the athlete we talked about from earlier as someone who's struggling to be above average into a collegiate level sprinter, running 10.54 seconds after 8 months of training. Once he fixed his overstriding, he got his hips and pelvis into a neutral position and maintained stiffness on the ground. It didn't just improve a few steps, it transformed his entire race. One of the best exercises for building stiffness is going to be a yielding isometric calf raise hold. Step 1, stand on one leg. Step 2, raise onto the ball of your foot. Step 3, hold on to this position for as long as possible without letting the heel drop. Step 4, progress by increasing the duration of the hold and adding on weight over time. So usually you start with one dumbbell, holding onto a pole, maybe 10 to 20 pounds, and then try to progress up to 50, all the way up to 100 one day. Step 5, focus on maintaining stiffness and control throughout the entire movement. And for reps and sets, we're usually gonna do 2 to 3 minutes of 30 to 45 second holds on each leg. Fixing overstriding can solve a lot of problems for most athletes, but 90% of athletes will still feel stuck if they have this one remaining issue. So if you want to find out what that issue is and how to fix it, watch this video right here.